We don't know exactly what has caused this spate of attacks. It's probably a number of factors, some of which involve the ecology of the coastal ocean, some of which involve people's behavior. So what we do know is that from a long-term survey, a 40-year survey that's been conducted by the Institute of Marine Sciences, we've certainly not seen a big jump in shark collections this year in our survey work. That doesn't mean the sharks haven't changed their distribution patterns slightly, but it does mean there's not a superabundance of sharks in North Carolina right now. This is always a time of the year when sharks do move into the area, and because of it being a warm year, it may be a bit earlier this year than in years past. But in terms of the way people respond to temperatures, we've had really warm weather and we've had not a lot of rain. And those are two factors that can be pushing more people into the water. And North Carolina is already a very popular beach destination. And so this is a situation where you've got a lot of people coming to our coast, and those people have all the opportunity in the world to get in the water every day. Another way to look at it is, we just went through the 4th of July weekend without any attacks. And you're talking about thousands of people in the water for thousands of combined hours. And in some ways, it's amazing that you wouldn't have an instance where a shark and a person sort of bump into each other and you have a bite. So we've certainly had a very active month, but 7 is still a low number in terms of trying to draw out pattern. So 2 years ago, we only had 1 attack in North Carolina. 3 years ago, we had 2 attacks in North Carolina. And I've been fond of saying, because it's true, those are more amazing numbers to me than 7. To go a whole year in this state and only have 1 incidence of a shark biting a person, to me that's phenomenal. The 7 that we've had this year is a big number relative to other years, but it's still a small number in terms of your odds of getting bit by a shark on any given day are tremendously low. So we do know that it's been a warm, dry year, and among many possible explanations, people have invoked maybe changes in salinity, which could change where sharks move along the coast. The reality is that our data would suggest the beaches are salty every year, and they're salty this year. And that could cause sharks to maybe move into the estuaries, farther up the estuaries, if salinity was higher in the estuaries. I don't think it's a strong driver of what we're seeing on the beaches. And people should not be surprised probably that the attacks happen in 3 foot of water near shore. Sharks have been venturing into those waters for a long time. Depending on the wind, the currents, the things that sharks are after, like small bait fishes or menhaden or later in the year mullet, those fishes tend to bank up against the shores. And the sharks have for a long time been coming right in. Anybody that's flown the coast in the last couple decades has probably seen sharks along the beaches, sometimes in close proximity to people. It's just the vast majority of the time, those sharks are relatively small, just like now, and those sharks aren't identifying people as any sort of valuable resource to get near. There's a very rare set of circumstances, maybe when the water's very turbid and there's lots of bait in the water, and the water's noisy with wave action, that the shark isn't able to discern one prey item from the other. And a person is there in the way and a bite happens, and the shark is not developing a taste for people. It's just in an area where those sorts of interactions will happen very rarely. There are a number of general principles, sort of common sense ideas that I think everybody should follow. Sharks tend to be more active in the evenings and at night. So maybe avoid swimming at those times, although most of the attacks this year have happened in broad daylight, so there's no absolute guarantee of safety when you go in the ocean. If you realize that you're cut, it's a good idea to get out of the water because sharks can certainly sense the blood. Maybe you don't swim near inlets because inlets tend to be really biologically active places where things are moving in and out. Certainly the first 2 attacks happened near a pier, and it makes sense that if there's a lot of bait going in the water, from fishermen, or the fishermen are catching fish that are then struggling on a line. Those are things that sharks will cue in on. The structure of the pier itself, marine life is attracted to structure. So there can certainly be higher concentrations of marine life, including sharks, around piers or hot spots of fishing is some indicator there being a lot of bait. And when there's bait, you may see dolphins, and if you see dolphins, don't be surprised there's sharks under the water that you don't see that are also coming in to feed. So everybody probably just needs to, pay attention to their surroundings a bit more carefully. And if you see a lot of signs of biological activity, bait being fed upon, if you see a lot of people fishing in the area, it makes common sense to avoid those things. It doesn't mean that you're completely safe. You're statistically speaking, you're safe everywhere, given the rate of attacks that we do see. But there's no sure thing. There's just ways to maybe shift the balance ever so slightly in your favor by using your senses to observe what's around you and make safer decisions.